Good evening. I now call to order the Thursday, February 12th, 2026 meeting of the City of Sugar Land Planning and Zoning Commission. Good evening, commissioners, both here and remote, and good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Happy New Year, if I haven't seen you yet, and almost Happy Valentine's Day. Let's start with Section 3, public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, Chair, we do not.
Thank you. We'll go to item 4A, consideration of an action on the approval of the minutes for the December 9th, 2025 meeting. Those are in your packets, and the voting is down, so we'll do this by hand vote. Any corrections to the minutes or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve and a second. All right. I've already got whatever. I've got Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Parikh on the second, and no other discussion. Please vote by hand. And that passes unanimously among the members in attendance. Thank you, everyone. We will move to item 5A, a workshop, a report and update on the Imperial Historic District project. We have Devin Rodriguez, Director of Redevelopment. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are all of you? It's good to be back here. So we thought we would just come tonight and make sure that we keep the Planning and Zoning Commission updated about what's going on with Imperial. So the City Council did receive this workshop and has taken action on it, but wanted the opportunity to present it to all of you as well, and opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have.
How'd it go with council?
They approved.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes. Okay, so a little update of what we've been up to lately. So last time I was here, shared that obviously we were moving forward or had purchased the property. So there is the historic district itself, which is about 18 acres where all the historic buildings are located. And the city actually ended up assembling 6 parcels for approximately 40 acres for the future redevelopment of this overall site. So some of the, just kind of really quick of how do we get here, because we always like to start with that. You know, for the last 20 years, there has been some unsuccessful attempts over and over, and at the end of the day, there's just a lot of barriers related to this site that the private market is not able to make this redevelopment occur on its own. So in May 2024, we did have a tour in Austin that toured some other redevelopment sites, and we really had a lot of great lessons learned and insights, and that led to City Council deciding that they wanted to put the city in the driver's seat and go ahead and purchase and assemble these parcels and remove some of those barriers. There still are other barriers, but that was a big step that we took. And then here, you know, I kind of just ran through that quickly. There are other steps in between, but those were a lot of the major milestones that have happened in the last year. So most recently, we engaged with Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative. You all, or hopefully most of you, all had the opportunity to interview them. They came into town for 1 week to kick off a community engagement exercise with our community, and so they are award-winning and nationally renowned planning and urban design firm, and really helped with what we liked about them in terms of selecting them for this specific piece of the project was their experience in community engagement and facilitating these types of conversations with the community. So the overview of their scope was really to define a high-level vision and some overarching goals for the future redevelopment of this site. They engaged with you, as well as our city council, as well as our residents and other stakeholders. And it was a week-long intensive, as well as some before and after work in terms of reviewing past documents, past visioning, just our general strategic planning documents that we have for the city. And so they did an extensive review of all those planning documents and really worked to understand like what has been some of the past due diligence that has been done, what is the site infrastructure, what are some of those challenges and opportunities. And then engaged in that dialogue with the community to really get their feedback, have some of that dialogue back and forth, and get people to be thinking big picture in terms of what are these big overarching goals that at the end of the day we'd really like this site to achieve for the city of Sugar Land. And then they provided a final document summarizing their process, the background information, and recommendations for a vision and guiding pillars. So I just want to I have several slides here to just kind of tell you about the charrette and what we did, because we do feel like we got a really good turnout for it. So there was overall from November 3rd to the 6th, there was 2 different locations that we participated with these different events. There was an opening session. There was 3 topic-specific meetings. Then there was open studio hours. So if one of those open session or the closing or any of the topic meetings didn't work out for people's schedule, they could stop by at any time. And one of those days, the hours went much later to 6 o'clock, so people could stop by after work and just speak one-on-one with the consultant and have some of that dialogue, look at the maps, answer questions, tell them what some of their thoughts and ideas were. Overall, TPUDC was directly available for public input for 30 hours over this week-long period. And we did a lot to make sure that we really tried to target and get the word out that there was this opportunity, because we were going to do this 1 week intensive, really community engagement event of in-person opportunities. And so our target audience was everybody, the youth, young adults, seniors, longtime residents, our families, some of our stakeholders like the Children's Museum that is located there, and others in the community that really should be participating in this important process. And then we engaged in a lot of grassroots marketing, going to National Night Out and just handing out flyers to people in their driveways, telling them about the event. We, of course, had some of the 100-year celebration for the Char House. We had some industry events, and then that picture in the bottom left there is the event, the kind of cleanup event that we did, where people came in to help stack some of these bricks, and so there was a lot of community opportunity to have that dialogue and engagement. And you see the Build Better Blocks event up there as well. We also did signage. So we had lawn signs that people put up in their yards, handed out to their neighbors. We put banners up at 3 different locations around the site so that you could see it from Highway 90 to really promote, please come and participate in this event and put it on your calendar. There was also a lot of digital promotion. So there was sharing the news through our listserv, also through the community liaisons, and then, of course, all across our social media channels as well. And then we did do some advertisements. So we placed some advertisements in the Community Impacts website and their email newsletter. That is something that we, Community Impact specifically, that we hear a lot from our residents and stakeholders, that is a place that they really go for a lot of their news. And so we thought that was a good opportunity to really be able to get the word out and increase participation in the event. And so overall, this is just kind of how we measure some of those marketing and outreach efforts in terms of the views and the reach and the impressions when you're on social media. But so this is just the breakdown of the full reach and all the metrics that we look when we engage in a marketing kind of. And then for our participation and response, so we had over 360 participants, 60 survey responses. The surveys we had them do digitally afterwards, just to kind of tell us, what did you think? Did this meet your expectations? Even getting us kind of information for future engagement opportunities. And these are some of those quotes that we had gotten from some of the survey responses that overall, I would just say from surveys as well as conversations that we had, there was just a very positive feedback that people really appreciated. Not only the just opportunity to have that type of engagement, they really like the format of it. So I think we were able to really meet everybody's needs and be able to provide some of that feedback. All right, so the visioning exercise and the deliverable. So again, the consultant reviewed all of our current and previous plans to really see what is that foundation that we're building from. And then the goal was to help establish that cohesive vision and goals for the future of the site. This was not specific like a site plan where this building needs to become this type of adaptive reuse, or we want this type of restaurant located right here. But this is a 10 to 15, 20-year project. And so what are those overarching goals that at the end of the day, we're going to hope that we achieved when we complete the redevelopment of this site? It also explored some of those market realistic options. So we did do a market study that did give some, now is a point in time, so the market can always change, but based off of what that information gave us in the last 9 months or so, that was just kind of additional information for the consultant as well as all of us in terms of what could some future options be for the Char House. And then to craft that strategic vision report. So I want to kind of, I've touched on it a little bit, but like what this was it's not a master plan. It's not a rendering or a site plan. We're not talking about specifically, developing the site or even saying to a future developer, like, this is what you need to do. It's the vision and the overarching goals that we want this site to achieve long-term, and that could be achieved in various different ways. So one of the things that really came out about this, I think, is a good way of framing this is a playbook, not a blueprint, in terms of what this vision and these overarching goals are. One of the things that was in that scope of work was trying to have some dialogue around the Char House. Like, what do people want the Char House to be? There's always been a lot of discussion about saving it and just the iconic nature of its size that really contributes to the overall historic district. The site is historically designated at the state and federal level, but it is designated as a district. It is not designated by individual buildings. So the site in its entirety with all of the historic buildings together are historically designated. That means that if you do something to one of the historic buildings that is not in keeping with some of those historic standards, it could affect that historic designation long term. So, but the Char House is the most prominent and is the one that is talked about the most, and we wanted to have some dialogue around, like, what is it that you want? You just want to be preserved? What type? Are we talking about making sure that the first floor is activated? Are we talking about a full adaptive reuse of this, 8-story high building? And so what kind of came out of that was this prevailing sentiment of it should be preserved and it should be activated in some way. We are underway right now on the preservation efforts for the Char House. So the City Council did approve a design contract and did initiate a procurement process for a construction manager at risk in order to begin those preservation work. And so we expect that to be moving forward this fall. And then that is anticipated to take 18 to 24 months. But, a lot of it, people had a lot of ideas. Nobody really landed on one thing. And so some of them need to be vetted for the future, especially hotel came up a couple of times. And from our market study aspect, that is one of the most challenging things to do for that building. But there was a lot of great input about doing like a lookout point or making sure there was kind of the museum aspect in the building. And so I think that there's a lot of ways that we can take some of these ideas and incorporate into the building long term, or if not specifically in the Char House, maybe in one of the nearby buildings. Oh, see, I already kind of went into the details. So jumped ahead. But yes, so these are some of the ideas: museum, hotel, food hall, event space, and a lookout point. One of the things that was mentioned about the food hall and event space, specifically probably more like the food hall, is that the 3-bay warehouse, which is behind the container warehouse, not everybody usually sees it because it's really kind of behind more of the fenced area, but it is very large. And it is 1-story large warehouse space. And so it could be a great opportunity for a future food hall type or even event space. So lots of different opportunities, no specific idea that people landed on, but I think we got the sentiment and the feel of what the community would like to see out of the Char House. So I mentioned that this has gone to City Council. So we did present this to City Council at a workshop on January 20th and got their feedback in terms of the vision statement and the guiding pillars, and they gave us some feedback. And from that feedback, there was some small refinement of the vision statement and the guiding pillars, and so these are the ones that were adopted by them at the first February meeting. And so the vision statement is an authentically Sugarland district designed for our future, and the our is very intentional in terms of our place, our people, our community. And I'll go into some of the other slides to build on these guiding pillars. So telling the story, again, this is just very important in terms of the overall historic pieces of this property, not just the buildings, but we do have a lot of artifacts. And people were very clear about we need to tell the whole story, not just pieces of the story. And so encouraging that not just in the buildings themselves, but throughout the development. And then creating a living district. So there was a lot of discussion on like, this needs to be lively from day through night. This is not just a daytime thing. It's just not just a nighttime thing. We want this to be a living district. Also, an emphasis on flexibility, that this is going to need to evolve and change with the market over time, and wanting this to be a place that can meet everybody's needs no matter your age. There's also a lot of talk about like, I'd like a place to go and I don't have to spend money, right? Just go to experience it. Doesn't mean that you're having to buy something at a restaurant, but those opportunities to really experience a space and a public space. And then design for gathering, building upon that, you know, this can be a place that embraces all aspects of Sugarland, our diversity, and reinforces just what it is for all of our residents, no matter your age. And there's some of those pictures there, those inspirational type of pictures of what that might mean for design for gathering. And you can see kind of some of our own. Smart Financial Center is up there at the top left, but just the idea that this needs to be public and walkable and meet all of those public gathering opportunities. And then connect and enhance mobility. There's a lot of discussion around mobility, a lot of discussion around being able to connect this site to other areas of the city, that is not isolated, that 90 does not become this just separator that people can't get from other parts of the city into the Imperial Historic District. And not only that, but talking about kind of the mobility or enhancement of the waterways, that there's walking along the waterways. A lot of our water is in people's private backyards or behind buildings, and so being able to really activate that doesn't necessarily mean people may be swimming in it with some of our animals, but just being able to experience it and having all of that walkability opportunity. So what's next? Kind of a quick overview of that vision. I mentioned that City Council did workshop that, and they did adopt a resolution to adopt that vision and those guiding pillars. So we are getting ready to start a procurement process for a master developer. We are expecting to release an RFQ at the end of this month. There would be, it's going to be a two-part RFQ process for initial qualifications, and then narrowing that down to top two, three, we're saying top two candidates that would then give a more detailed response. The first one's going to be much more qualifications experience, and then the top two would be that plus specifically to this site. And so that procurement process is going to continue, and then we would have hopefully the selection of a master development partner in the fall of this year. At the same time, I mentioned to you about the preservation work that is happening at the Char House, and so the design work is currently underway right now, and the construction manager at risk selection is going on right now, and so we expect kind of late spring, fall that we would have some phase one construction beginning, a groundbreaking ceremony, and then once some of that construction starts on the Char House, you know, one of the questions we kind of get asked is, what about interim activations or other things that could happen on the site, because this project is going to take a long time. And so one, I would say that remember that the Fort Bend Children's Discovery Center is there. So children, grandchildren. It's a wonderful museum and a great opportunity to be able to go and experience all they have to offer. You don't have to go to Houston. We have it right here in Sugar Land. But we are looking at what other opportunities might be to do some interim activations on the site to get people to be able to be part of it. These are some huge steps that we've taken, and get the community to be part of it and experiencing it already. And with that, I think, I'm going to open up to questions. But if any of you are on LinkedIn, we do provide a lot of updates and information about this project, as well as other redevelopment and economic development projects that are going on. And so feel free to follow us, and you'll have all sorts of weekly updates and information. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much for that presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions. Just for the ease and convenience, let me start with our commissioners that are attending remotely, or Commissioner Tilton or Commissioner Hart. Either of you have any questions for?
I don't have any questions on my end.
I guess would this require any kind of changes to? I think we have a historic district plan. Is there anything that we'd have to do for codes or standards or anything else that would be involved in this once you select the developer?
So in terms of the land use plan, I don't think that there's necessarily any major updates that needs to be done with that right now. In terms of future zoning or code, this land does not have an active plan development on it. So as we go through this process, we'll be determining what those next steps are in terms of the zoning and the regulations associated with that, just as if a private developer was part of it. It's really starting fresh.
Okay, any questions from commissioners present? AP?
Wrong button. First of all, thank you. I know this is a lot of work, and I've seen all the outreach and everything online and social media, so that's much appreciated. I just had a couple of curiosities. On the feasibility study that y'all did last year, what did it say in terms of like what possible uses would be favored? And obviously the hotel is probably challenging, but what else did it say about the feasibility of that
Yeah,
site?
so I always say it's a market study that was a point in time, right? So as the market changes, you have to update those things. But it was in May of last year. And in terms of the things that were market feasible, no incentives, gap financing, just kind of what purely the private market could meet, was townhomes was something that could be done in terms of financially feasible. Also, smaller neighborhood retail was another thing in terms of showing those as gaps in the market. It also talked about multifamily as a need. There was a challenge in terms of financials of a multifamily with like a wrap garage is not something that purely the private market was meeting it at that cost, just because of the pure price of the having to build a structured parking garage. But those uses were in demand in terms of needing to meet that market need.
I would imagine by the time this gets to the point of activation, would there be another feasibility study down the road? Because obviously the market's going to change in the next year and a half.
Yes.
The other
This is
question,
something we did as part of our due diligence, just really wanting to know, like, okay, we're getting into this. Where's the market currently stand is definitely something that will need to be updated over time.
and then the other question I had was around the timeline that you presented. Is there any other community engagement, formal community engagement plan throughout the next phase of the process?
So as we're going through the procurement process, there's not going to be a whole lot, because we ourselves, it is kind of this isolated, you need to maintain the integrity of the procurement process. We will certainly provide updates in terms of, what's going on with the Char House preservation. We have our project webpage that I encourage everybody to visit, but not only that, you can sign up to receive those e-newsletters, and when there is new information, we send those out, pretty regularly. We had been kind of on every 2 to 3 week kind of period of sending that out of new information. you know, one of the next big things will be that groundbreaking for the Char House when we do that presentation. And so in terms of like actual engagement with the community to like get their input or something like that, that probably won't be happening during this procurement process. But there will be future opportunities when we get to those interim activation stages and stuff like that later this year.
Cool, that's all I have. Thanks, Matt.
Commissioner Brown?
Good afternoon. Again, great job, as Commissioner Parikh said. You know, put a lot of work and a lot of effort into this. We have an amazing city council and we've got an amazing staff, but we've got a vision that we're moving forward that if not handled properly, this could become a political issue, right? What does this person want developed here versus the other? How does this process move through to where it is managed, and how do you manage it, and who decides what's going to go in, where it's going to go, and how that's going to happen?
Yeah, so one, I guess, detail that I missed in terms of the next steps is when we select that master developer, there will be a process of negotiating a master development agreement with them. And so that will be the piece in terms of really getting into the details about our partnership. What are we willing to do? What are they willing to do? What is the overall delivery of the project going to be? There's always going to need to be a part of it that it remains flexible, because this is going to get developed over time. And so nothing is going to be absolute in terms of a site plan today versus 10 years from now. There's going to need to be some modifications that are made, but we will negotiate a master development agreement. And this vision and these goals and kind of our approach this way, that's why it's not so prescriptive, because it's meant to be overarching, that these things might be approached different ways depending on as we go through this 10-20 year process.
Who's the decision makers on the master development project? Who's going to be the one that comes up with the components and the direction it goes?
So we will be reviewing the RFQs, you know, at a
So
staff.
it'll be city managed, is what
Yeah,
I'm
but the city council will, and the economic development committee, which is made up of 3 city council members, and then the city
Okay.
council, they
That's
will
what I
be
was
the
looking
eventual
for.
decision makers on the master developer and that master development agreement.
Good. Devin, thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious. You have a RFQ coming out, but you don't have a master planned development just yet, or a developer in mind. Do you have a developer in mind, and what is the RFQ for?
The RFQ is the qualifications for a master developer.
Oh, I see. So this is
Yeah,
you.
it's request for qualifications, selecting a master developer based off of their experience and their qualifications, not specific to a project.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
So just a quick follow-up on some of these questions. So we have everything that was presented. We have kind of this visioning document, and that is something that, I guess, tell me how the RFQ process is going to work. So obviously the people that are interested in making submissions will look at that, and then are they going to be asked to react and comment and come up with their ideas of how they would implement one or more features of the visioning plan?
So that's why there's this 2-part process. So the 2-part or 2 phases of this RFQ. So the first phase is asking for those requests for qualifications, and based off of their experience and qualifications, the top 2 will be asked to then respond to the second phase of that procurement process.
Okay.
And that is when we will get into more of the development specifics, financials.
So the first stage is not at all site-specific?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. That's not until we get to step 2.
Okay. All right. Is there a thought process that if you don't know exactly what direction a master development partner is going to take it, like how do you vet their qualifications if you don't know what you're going to ask them to do? I mean, I understand how you can vet financials, you can look at things they've done in the past, but, right, phase 2 is going to decide what they actually are asked to do, correct?
Well, we're asking for a community-informed, market-supported project. So we, the city, are not developers, and we're not saying this is the site plan and this is what you must build.
Sure.
We're looking to partner with that private sector for us to kind of lay out, this is what our broad vision is. How can we marry that with what you do best and what the different site plan or uses could look like now, as well as building in that flexibility into the future. So I want to emphasize, like, there will be flexibility because this is going to be happening over a long period of time, and the market will change and things will change. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to have a district that is going to tell the story, is going to enhance, connect and enhance mobility, that's going to have the designed for gathering, those large goals that we talked about. But it's not going to be, we're not laying out a site plan for them and saying, please build this.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Any
ask
other
one-
questions?
I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So my question was, when I was looking at the timeline, like by fall of 2026, do we have a lot of people knocking on our door interested in this? And if that doesn't happen, like, in the past, would the city take this on? Is that in our plan?
So we have had significant interest from the development community since we made this announcement.
Okay, so they're waiting. The developers are waiting for us.
Yes, yes. And your second part question of, like, if we didn't, would we take this on ourselves? I don't think I can answer that, but that's not currently what our approach is.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much for your time. I'm sorry? Commissioner Hart's hand is raised. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hart, I didn't see that. Did you have an additional question or two?
Yeah, I guess, is this, so this, the city owns 40+ acres in the historic portion around the old Sugarland area, or the Char House area, right? Correct?
Yes, we purchased approximately 40 acres.
So are we, this is going to be a public-private partnership where the
Correct.
private partner development. So again, I'm going to, I think, go with the chairman's question, or maybe Mr. Brown's question about how are we going to guide them through, is that, we have this very, very vague 30,000 foot level vision on the day-to-day or the initial ideas. Is that going to be staff, or is that going to be the council? I guess if the city's going to, I don't want to say run or administer the site, how much, or they're not, are they? The private developer's going to run the site, so they have more input on what is profitable to them?
So,
Or are we leasing the land to them, or how's that really going to work? How's that partnership going to work out so that they can, be profitable, but also meet the needs of the city's vision?
Sure. So, I mean, this is complex, and that master development agreement is what is going to lay out a lot of the different roles and responsibilities of what is the role of the developer, what is the role of the city. There might be certain things that we feel very strongly about. There might be things that we feel so strongly about that the private developer is going to say, I can't finance that, I can't make that work. And so there's going to be a question to us of, are we willing to then make that happen from our own funds? So I don't know all of the details because a lot of these things will need to be negotiated, but that master development agreement is what is going to lay out the different roles and responsibilities. You said, are we going to lease this land? Are we going to do other things? There is a lot of financial structures that are available in these types of P3 transactions. I am not even aware of all of them. And we are going to consider all of them and what might be the best approach for this site. And what might be the best approach today, 5 years from now, the financial markets might change and we might have a different approach. But we're going to need to lay out an agreement that's going to have those roles and the responsibilities, what each party is responsible for, what each party is willing to do, and then be able to work in a partnership over time to make it happen.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown, follow-up?
I had a follow-up question, and you've done a nice job explaining it. Who does the buck stop with at the city? Who's going to be the person that manages it, or is it going to be by committee? Is it going to be council? Who's going to manage the process and make the decisions? I understand you're going to have to follow the legalities of picking and choosing your contractors and how that occurs. But in terms of they come to you with a vision and you want to go down that road, who's gonna sit and decide which vision is best? And as those visions change, as you said, the marketplace is gonna change, right? Who's gonna say what's right or what's wrong 5 years from now? And most importantly, and this may be just a question you have to think about, who's gonna make the unpopular decisions that the vocal people of our community, that sometimes are not the majority, are gonna be very vocal about? Who's gonna stand firm on that vision as this moves down the road?
So I would tell you in terms of the decisions, there's a lot of decisions, and so these things are going to be
But
layered.
who's gonna manage it
No,
is my question. Who's
yeah,
gonna be
but
the,
what I'm saying is there's different layers, just like we have now, that there are certain things in our codes and requirements that are done at a staff level and that is said that way, and there are certain things that need to come to this body or come to the
So
city
it will
council
follow those
body.
processes.
And so a lot of these things will be laid out in terms of that agreement, but also the levels of our codes and ordinances. And so it's not just one decision and absolutes. Some of those really big ones, it's gonna end up at the city council to make those decisions, but it's gonna really be dictated by how that is laid out in the development agreement as well as what our codes and ordinances say.
I just think some thought needs to be given to that, because it's, yes, you can pass off your design and construction, you can pass off all those things that will fall in their appropriate buckets. But that big bucket that doesn't have a name on it, which is making everybody happy and trying to find the best course, I think is gonna be the toughest part of this to wrangle. So,
I see it similar to some of our zoning code stuff, right? Where,
but the char house is different, that's all I'm saying.
Sure,
This is a
sure.
very
And
passionate.
so that's what I'm saying, like, there's gonna be different levels of different decisions, but there's a lot of decisions, that are gonna be part of this that are gonna be made.
Thank you, thank you.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Well, Randall, well, go ahead.
Well, this has been sitting around for a long time, and the city is now taking on the debt, and the citizens are responsible for that debt. I don't want to see it for the next 5 years having a barbed wire fence around it. I think we should start using it today. You know, I don't know how or why, but the citizens of Sugar Land should be able to use that property right now. In the meantime, has that been talked about with the three-person panel that's watching over this?
So the site can be used today. There's a Fort Bend Children's Discovery Center that welcomes 300,000 visitors every year. And so this is a large site, and there's pieces of the site that aren't currently accessible, and there's parts of the site that are and are very active. And so it's not in its entirety. The Char House, no, is not a building right now that we can make accessible in the next 18 months.
Well, what I'm kind of looking at is the 3-bay. If somebody comes up there and says, you know, I want to develop that into a, you know, a stall area with micro eateries or something, why can't we jump
It's
on
something
that
we've
as
thought of.
something
It's
separate?
something that we've thought about and considered. The 3-bay did sustain some damage to the roof as it relates to the barrel, and so there's some of those things that we need to take into consideration. But we have recently had some of those conversations to be thinking about that. I think the 3-bay is a great opportunity for possibly the first building besides the container warehouse that is already fully redeveloped to be activated.
What's the current zoning of the Imperial Historic District?
I'm gonna look over here. The economic development answer is nothing.
Okay, what's on the books?
There is a voided PD. It is defunct, so it is
The Imperial
the former PD.
mixed use?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it hasn't been replaced with
Well, there's a
anything. So
PD, there was a PD at one point, and then there was also the mixed-use zoning designation that was never adopted too, correct?
Correct. Yes, that was never applied to. It never came to fruition. It took a path of focusing on the Lake Point area, and that's what it turned into, was a focused development code for the Lake Point redevelopment district. On the Imperial site, there was a previous PD that has now expired, and so technically it doesn't have really any entitlements associated with it.
Then
Yeah.
we'll see. This esteemed commission will see it at some point, presumably.
Likely, yes. That would be in the same situation. Yep. Not to my knowledge. No, not to my knowledge. Yeah.
I think he's waiting to see what we're gonna do with it before he does. Yeah. He
Yeah,
was at least 2 meetings.
Yeah, I hope he is engaged, and it's great that they are representing, their property.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you again, everyone. Really appreciate all the hard work and the presentation. We are going to move on to item 6, reports. 6A is the liaison report from the December 16th City Council meeting. That's me. I would be lying if I told you I had a clear recollection of that meeting. What I believe the main item that was pertinent to P&Z was the first consideration of the amendments to the development code, if I'm thinking of the right meeting. But in all candor, that's about all I can remember. My apologies. And then Commissioner Tilton, you had the January 6th and the 20th meeting. Is he on? He's no longer on. Okay. He was kind enough to prepare some written notes from those 2 meetings. So first of all, let me express my appreciation to him for taking the time to do that. I won't read them all, but I will congratulate his Eagle Scout Troop number 38. One of the members was Sugarland Volunteer of the Month. There was also the discussion of the Imperial Development Workshop, which I'm going to assume we just heard a lot of. There were some comments about the individual highlights of the presentation, which this group has now heard for itself, and some of the public statements that were made by council members, which are all of record since that was in an open meeting, and some other items as well regarding redevelopment and approval of the 25-26 budget. So those were those items. And then I think we had the February 3rd meeting, Commissioner Brown?
Yes, and that was the adoption of this Imperial Historic District redevelopment vision. So this
Excellent.
is the only item that pertained to P&Z.
Thank you. Item B, city staff report.
Good evening and happy belated New Year. That went by fast, didn't it? You will have another planning and zoning meeting on February 26th at 6 o'clock. I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is your first meeting that you've had at the new time. We anticipate having a plat on that agenda for you, so exciting and fun-filled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
Got a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Brown. Is there a second? I've got a second by Commissioner Dawood. Please vote. That motion passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.